panel with Hawaii's musicians. What will it take to get everyone safely back to work? Usually when we start hosting these forums, it's because we've had over a dozen people from a singular industry call us asking for help, pleading for help, and asking for guidance, or asking to share information with their fellow members within a certain industry. And so we are so proud to just start this discussion today. Our goal is to get everyone that is in the music industry and entertainment industry back to work so that you can feed your families. So I want to introduce just some of our panelists today. Now, if I miss somebody, please introduce yourself. I'll be happy to hear from you. We have Amy Hanai Gilliom, who set the world on fire with her first record and ever since has been winning awards and advocating for the local music industry. Her voice and talent and heart have earned her 21 Nahoku Hano Hano Awards and 5 Grammy nominations. She is currently the president of the Hawaii Academy of Recording Artists and is a newly elected governor of the Pacific Northwest chapter of the Recording Academy. And we are thrilled to have her with us today. We have Dave Moss. He is the executive director of the Hawaii Symphony Orchestra. Dave was chosen following an international search and came to Hawaii from the acclaimed Haymarket Opera in Chicago, which is a very prestigious opera. He was praised there for his wisdom, energy, and dedication. And despite having joined the symphony right before COVID shut everything down, he has brought creativity, leadership to the organization, despite the challenges of doing so virtually. And of course, my friend Gregory Dunn is president and CEO of the Hawaii Theater Center and has a wealth of business experience in the private and nonprofit sectors of the economy. He has led the Better Business Bureau of Hawaii, the Hawaii Nature Center, and the Atherton YMCA. He has been recognized for excellence in the nonprofit management. His private sector experience includes real estate investment and introduction of the Barnes & Noble and Nike Town retail operations to the islands. Matty Hazelgrove is president of BAMP Project, a concert promotion company, and is co-owner of the Republik, a nightclub and concert venue. Starting in 2001, his partnership with Flash Henson changed the face of Oahu nightlife, pioneering high-end bottle service at the Hano Hano Room. He turned his attention to live music, and BAMP Project is now the highest volume concert production company in Hawaii. We also have a dear friend, Walter Enriquez. Walter Enriquez Jr. is founder and president of Gay Island Guide and organizes entertainment for a lot of the local LGBTQ events. He has served as VIP and events manager at Paradise Cove Luau, hosting celebrities from Gladys Knight to 98 Degrees. Woohoo! My time frame. He has served as assistant general manager for Blaisdell Center and the Waikiki Shell, and was vice president of marketing of Big City Diner, where he established many events and promotions that have carried on. Eric Izumi is founder and president of Audio Resources Hawaii, providing sound engineering services in the islands for 18 years. Eric has handled everything from small corporate events to big concerts at the Waikiki Shell, the Hawaii Convention Center, Bishop Museum, and venues around the state. Some of the events his company has generated include Sunset at Maili in my district, thank you so much, Eric, and Hawaii's Finest Concerts, and Toyota Japan, and Invisalign Corporation. Unui Wong is the midday personality at KQMQ, Hawaii 93 FM, and is a longtime player in Hawaiian and reggae music scene. He's a band director and booking and agent for Irie Love, Mahi Crabbe, Lion Fiyah, and as a bassist, and he has performed with the Green Fiji Natural Vibrations and others. Unui has also worked behind the scenes sound engineering for various bands throughout the island. And we have Kukama Kanatoth, who has called us a lot about this issue. So we said, why don't you just join us? She's been fighting for a lot of the local artists, especially from the Waimanalo area. She's the vice chair of the Waimanalo Neighborhood Board and a longtime community advocate. She's demanded that we do something about this issue to help all of our local artists. And she is a bright, shining light for the people of Waimanalo. Ben Kama is a professional musician who performed at the Halekulani, the Moana Surf Rider, the Sheraton Waikiki, to name a few. You may also have seen Ben entertaining at Duke's Tiki Grill Bar and Maui Brewing Company, among others. Originally from Waimanalo, he also resides in Kaneohe and is happily married father of 10 children. So we got to get him back to work, everybody. And we have Trish Nale. Thank you so much for joining us, our newest rising artist who just released a new single just as COVID got everything shut down. And she would love to perform her new single. And so thank you everyone so much for joining us, and everybody that's watching us on Facebook. Amy, I want to really start with you. Wow, this has been a tough time for all of our local artists. Tell us, how is everyone getting by during this difficult time?
Well, you know, with the Hawaii Academy of Recording Arts, we have over, I think, about 550 plus Academy members, all working musicians, engineers, graphic artists, and everybody's just been kind of doing online concerts with tip jars. If they aren't getting PUA or the PPP, that's kind of what they're doing. And I'm a little bit more concerned for, like, you know, some of our entertainers in our industry, they do 3-4 gigs a night, you know, at some of the hotels, or they're running from gig to gig to gig, and there's just nothing for them. So we at Hara just produced a broadcast, a Kokua Entertainers Fund. And I encourage anyone who has any kind of recording credits to join Hara, because we are, you know, giving out funds to some of our entertainers that apply for it in our academy. But yeah, it's been a really, really, I mean, I think the entertainment world has been completely crippled by this whole pandemic. Are you on mute? Am I on mute? You on mute?
Sorry, I'm on mute. Sorry, I muted myself.
Yeah.
Let me hear from some other artists out there. Did anyone not get any financial assistance, and why do you think that it was so difficult to do so?
I could say something about that. I'm a full-time musician. I went full-time 3 to 5 years ago. And I'm one of those people that Amy talked about, you know, running from gig to gig on a normal basis, and now absolutely nothing. And then this ban to come down and say, you know, you can't work. And, you know, most people don't understand that a lot of us didn't get the stimulus check, and we don't qualify for unemployment. So, you know, we appreciate, like, Hara, I'm a part of their group, and the help that they've provided, even with just resources. They've been very helpful. But, you know, like Amy said, we're online on Facebook, Instagram, and we just have virtual tip jars that a lot of time our fan base, they're willing to support and they give us some tips, but it doesn't come anywhere close to replacing even a gig a week, you know. So it's been rough.
Just to give people an example, how much income did you lose since COVID shut everything down?
100%. I lost
but
everything.
Like in terms of money-wise, because
like
you
an
got
amount?
bills. Yeah.
Well, anywhere between $2,000 and $6,000 a month, you know. And that's, you know, because as musicians, sometimes we'll have 30, 40 gigs in a month, and then other months we'll have 10 or 15. So it fluctuates. So, you know, most of us know how to save for the rainy day, but, you know, being that it's been 3 months already and there's no end in sight for us. So that's where our struggle is.
Yeah, if I just say real quick, you know, we are the soundtrack of Hawaii, and that's just is what it is. Everywhere you go in Hawaii, there's music playing, and now there's none because there's no entertainers anywhere except online.
Yeah, we've been needing to see all of you because you bring us so much joy, and a lot of people are very sad not having music in their life, and it's just not the same. Although they enjoy it online and on TV, I have to say, especially for a lot of the singers that I know at church, that this is their soul. This is what gets them up in the morning, that heals them. It is our hope that we can get some better rules out there for all of you to really get you back to work. The mayor came out with a second stimulus, another 25 million, but I understand that there's a rule in there that says you have to have a physical office. So we have advocated that they make a priority of funding a lot of the musicians, because talking to different people in the entertainment industry, like what you folks were just saying, Ben was just saying, you don't qualify for all these other stimulus programs. So I want to let you know that we'll be communicating with the mayor to take out that line item that says you have to have a physical office, and definitely make it a priority to include all of you folks in that stimulus. It sounds like you would qualify from what Ben said. I think we give up to 10,000 a business or a person. So that would help to qualify to cover for a lot of the lack of income you folks have had. So I want to hear from Hukana. Why did you contact us so much about this issue? Can you help us to understand what you were hearing out there? Yeah.
Aloha mai. My father was a professional musician, and gigs was his nightlife, and with everything being shut down, I just made me wonder, like, gosh, with all these different programs being done, how is this affecting our professional musicians? And I didn't, now that I'm seeing the people who are involved in this Zoom, I mean, the theater, there's a lot of people being impacted by this. I'm sorry, but I call it sloth movement. It's just my mana'o. But yeah, like this, there's all these different places open, and I mean, the water park is open, for goodness sakes. And, not to be able to have music playing. I mean, I'm a hula dancer. Music is everything, and I think our people are ready to have their mental and their spiritual feelings given back to them through music. And I just feel for this industry, and I just wanted to help support. And so mahalo for having me, and much aloha to you all. You folks bring a lot
You're
of
a powerful lady when you contact us so much, we can't deny you.
Mahalo.
So actually, the musicians thank you, because you really help push us over the top to get us
Aloha
all
to you
together.
all. You folks bring a lot of joy to people's lives, and we mahalo you all for that. Mahalo nui.
So Eric, tell me, what are you hearing out there and feeling out there, and were you ever to get any benefits, or do you know if anyone has gotten benefits or really is in dire straits right now? Eric, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. It's a struggle. I mean, pretty much everything that you heard on social media or from the emails or people reaching out personally. I made a post a while back about how Hawaii is unique in a way that a lot of us in our communities evolve around music. We're tied into music some way, somehow, whether it's through relatives or we work in the industry or we support the people that we know. It's a struggle. Both coming from a smaller company, there's regional companies that are bigger than me, which I'm pretty sure their overhead is a lot higher and they're struggling even more. But even for the medium market companies like myself, we are hurting. There's nothing. From our standpoint, we're not musicians, so we can't just throw out a live stream and be like, oh, here's our tip jar, send us some money. Unfortunately, we don't do that. We can't. Us, concert venues, production managers, we are basically at the bottom of the barrel.
Mm.
So for
How much
me,
income?
I'm sorry.
How much income would you say you've lost since last few months?
Well, to give you an example, that March 14th weekend,
Mm.
I was lucky out of 4 shows to have one still happen. I lost over $15,000 just in that weekend. So
Wow.
Sunset and Miley was one of the bigger ones.
Yes, yes. So
So
Eric, how are you getting by? I mean, do you qualify for any of these programs that came out?
I do qualify for some.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't got a stimulus. I haven't gotten any actual government aid. I've actually had help from private foundations like Henry Capono Foundation. I worked with Leslie and Henry doing a broadcast, and I found out through that foundation, or through them, that their foundation gave out $500 gift cards to qualified musicians. I applied. Leslie gave me the card, sent it right away. So small contributions like that. I actually had a lot saved up, so I was actually in a process of possibly either buying a company out or investing. So basically, all that money I saved up for the last year is pretty much floating me. So I won't have opportunity to grow now. So that hurt me big time.
Oh, I'm so sorry, but I'm grateful that you did have something, as so many people don't. Well, hopefully we can get you back working soon. I understand the mayor heard all of you. I want to congratulate everyone for Zoom bombing the governor and the mayor's press conference, because I have to say, that combined with Amy singing with a mask on, right, that went viral, made a difference. And I can't stress to you enough the importance of you being united as an industry, because as a politician, I have to say, a lot of times when I see other politicians making decisions, it's because they don't know much about your industry. It's why we've been helping the salons and the tattoo artists and the other restaurants, because these decisions were made with them thinking they understood everything about your industry. And what will make you all very strong is putting together your own rules and regulations suggested to them that you're united on, that can prove to them that you won't spread the virus. I want to go to Pu'unui Wong. And so you're seeing it at all different levels from the radio station. And can you tell me, from the radio station perspective, are you must have reduced even some of your advertising funds, I'm sure, in addition to the other gigs that you do personally, right?
Yes, absolutely. At the radio station, we play a lot more music now, which is a silver lining, so to speak. And that's strictly because we don't have as many ads playing during the day. I know that we as a company, Pacific Media Group, have reached out and connected with different nonprofits and different businesses who were essential to help them forward along their messages, such as kupuna hours or food drives and mask giveaways. And we tried to participate in these types of community events and nonprofit type things, just to help the community, because it really is, we have to be in it together. And as far as us seeing a dip in revenue, we definitely have. We've been creative in trying to recapture that other ways, but at the end of the day, you cannot really compete to what is the commercial appeal of live events and having promoters contact us so that we can do great things with them and really create a community space for everybody being able to relax and listen to music. From the musician side, it's been pretty interesting for sure. I myself, that same weekend Eric is talking about, I lost 6 gigs that weekend. I went from 6 to 0. I actually was able to to attend Eric's event, the only event that was happening that weekend. But it's definitely been a long haul. I was speaking with a few musicians yesterday about what thoughts they had after I was asked to be a part of it, and a lot of them more or less share the same sentiment of just finding a way to do it safely. There has to be a happy medium somewhere, and I definitely agree with that.
So Walter, so this kind of hit you folks hard too, because I know that you do events that's also mixed with probably the tourism industry, right? And so do you folks have plans of how you're going to continue in with entertainment while tourism slowly opens up, and how hard has this hit your company?
Well, thankfully we're really mixed. Guyana Guide is actually mostly local following. We do get the mix of tourists, but thankfully the foundation of the company is locals. I learned that many years ago, just working in the field, that you got to take care of your own local people first. And thankfully I followed that, and it's made us successful. But you know, ultimately it's a domino effect. Like, not having our musicians or entertainers, I mean, it's beyond even just musicians. It's it's DJs, it's the venues, it's promoters like myself. It's a snowball effect that just harms so many different families across our state. And you know, I think it was Amy that mentioned earlier, you know, the musicians are the soundtrack of the state, but I also feel like they're the heartbeat of our culture. I feel like because of our Hawaiian musicians, they help to revive our native language. It's just, I think the stoppage, this ban on our musicians it's just very harmful in so many different ways.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I do want to head over to Dave Moss and Gregory Dunn, where you have a different type of entertainment. And Dave, how are all the musicians doing? Do they still get paid when you folks don't have gigs, or does everything stop because the performances stop?
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to connect with so many colleagues. And as you mentioned, I started on March 10th, so I've not seen any of you because I've been locked in my apartment. So it's, to answer your question, you know, my first week on the job, we canceled the last 4 weeks of our season with the orchestra. Because of our size of our organization, we're a $5 million organization. We were eligible for PPP funds and an EIDL loan. And so we really moved quickly to get those so that we're able to pay our musicians for those remainder weeks of the season, despite not being able to perform. And then also to maintain their health care and benefits through the summer months here. I'll tell you, I have 64 full-time musicians. That is what keeps me up at night, is if we don't get back to performing, if we don't find a way to create contributed and earned income in this community, I worry about those 64 and the additional 30 that are per service. Those are our educators. Those are I've never been in an orchestra where our musicians are so embedded in the community. And so it's really, that's what keeps me up at night. We have to find a way to work with the city and the state to allow these events to come back. We're just seeing so many cases on the mainland, especially in the orchestral world, of places like Nashville that have said, we're going to furlough all of our musicians and our staff until July 31st, 2021. And that is just a nail in the coffin that this community, we can't afford to go down that path. And so, you know, it's been great to come into this community and have my partners at the Musicians Association, Jim, Robert, and Brian, especially out there, who are really advocating for the musicians' rights and making sure we have a safe way of going back. And then partners like Greg, you know, at the Hawaii Theater Center, we use the Hawaii Theater Center as a venue. And we're also in the Blaisdell and Waikiki Shell. And I think that that's where we're really needing to see movement at the moment. When I look back at the economic data for this community, in 2017, arts and culture contributed $2.5 billion to this community. And there is a way back that might only be 3% of the gross domestic for that year. But with tourism at nothing at the moment, there's a way that this community can go forward, get back to doing events, and really support all these musicians who are just so important. They are the lifeblood of this community that I can't wait to be a part of. So.
Have you thought about outdoor concerts to kind of alleviate some of the concerns that people are having about the indoor concerts?
Sure, we've definitely gone down that path. Sorry, Greg, close your ears for a moment. I think one of the big, coming from Chicago, it's hard to do concerts outside in October, November, December, January, et cetera. And so I think one of the big benefits is the Waikiki shell here and the temperature where we can do performances outside. And, it's great to hear so many people, as you made the introductions, have a relationship with that venue. And right now we're working with the city to figure out how we come back. With social distancing there, that venue could still hold approximately 2,000 people with 6 feet of distance. That's not a small number at all. I'd love that challenge to get 2,000 people in there for a concert featuring Amy and the orchestra. I think that would really be a great way to bring the community back out. And so we are exploring those. I'll say, one of the other concerns that I'm having right now is I am hearing that there's a construction project in the works. And at a time when that is the one venue where we can be outside and we can socially distance and the orchestra can be safe and we can really bring people back, I would really urge the community to come together and maybe push that off until a time when there's other options for us to get back to performing, because we have to find a way back. We have to find a way to keep music in our lives.
Well, as a city council member that oversees the Waikiki show, you got my support on that one. And a lot of people like to go free by listening outside, though. But you'll find, I'll be honest with you, no matter what the performance is, you're going to have a huge turnout. We did several outdoor movie theater things at Kapolei Commons, and it sold out immediately. It was a really old movie that people probably watched 30 times already. And people just are missing that togetherness with their friends, their families, to watch entertainment. So I think we're on a good start. So Gregory, you can disagree with Dave, I guess, and wherever he went, and tell me about what you folks are going through. I know it was already a struggle before COVID, just doing what you folks do to bring the arts to the public. So tell me what you folks are doing right now and how you plan to get back open.
Well, we've really been dead in the water since the end of February. One of the last programs that we had on stage at the theater was the Chinese Spring Festival, where several visitors came from China and performed on stage as part of the Maui Opera event. And several of them were from Wuhan. So at the point when we recognized there was a problem, we wound up closing down earlier than most other venues out of an abundance of caution and with folks urging us to take a little bit quicker action. So we have been closed down since then. And during that time, our fiscal year has come to an end. And we lost about $3 million in the 3-month period that we wound up being closed. Projecting into the rest of 2020, by the time this is done, we will have lost $6 million in this 12-month period, because as we're pushing not only the local events off, but we're also seeing the mainland talent that we would bring in for larger concerts and shows not willing to travel and being pushed into 2021 as well. We're seeing large venues on the mainland with between 1,000 to several thousand seats that are also canceling their entire run for 2020. In our mind, in order to get our musicians back to work in a venue like the Hawaii Theater, we have to think really creatively and working with everyone within the industry to find a way to do live streaming well and do it in a way that our musicians and our crew can get paid. One of the things that's really difficult right now is we know that people need a lot of help. There are a lot of safety net services that are very important in the community, and there's a lot of money being thrown at it. Less than 3% of the contributed dollars in our economy right now are going to support the arts. The Community Foundation is not supporting the arts, generally speaking, right now. They're supporting safety net services. We're seeing a lot of support going into health and human services. But if we don't begin to have support to get our people back to work, to get the musicians back to work, to get the crew people back to work, on any given show night, For the 4 or 5 performers you see on stage, there are another 30 people working behind the stage in sound, lights, rigging, electric, all of the things that go into putting a show on, all of the marketing, the outreach. Those people are all paid for their work. And when we do just a virtual concert with a tip jar, we're missing a huge number of people that are not the ones that are on camera all the time, that we want to get back to work. So the Hawaii Theater is working with the Symphony, and we're working with folks in video production to do a very professional live streaming production on Facebook and YouTube. And we're working with the State Office of Creative Industries to find a way that we can do this on a much broader scale and begin to engage more musicians and more crew members on a regular basis to get people back to work.
Did you folks ever get that city grant we talked about from the mayor?
No.
Okay. But it was in the budget, right?
It was in the budget.
Okay. Did it lapse already?
I don't know. I haven't followed up on it. Once we were told no, we didn't pursue it further.
Okay. I will pursue it because things have changed now. So
thank you.
You have my word that I'll do that for you. I wanna. So how much revenue did you folks lose? You have a pretty big operation over there with lots of staff.
Yeah, we were at a staff of 49 total people. Now we're down to a staff of 3.5 that we're operating a better part of a city block, and still trying to help support the Chinatown community. The Hawaii Theater, as a performing arts venue, we not only support the artists and the crew members, but we're also the main draw for Chinatown. So we're an economic hub to get people to come into Chinatown and support the restaurateurs, support the bars, support the shops. So with the theater closed and no activity happening, the shops and the restaurants and everyone in the several block radius suffer as a result. So it's important for us to still try and maintain a presence on social media and in the press and let people know that our community still needs their support. Even though we're not able to open and welcome them back in to this beautiful auditorium you see behind me, we are the state's largest historic performing arts venue. And without the community support, we could just become another condo building.
Now, you're talking about virtual, so it sounds like you're not planning on opening in any form or fashion anytime soon, even with social distancing?
Well, we've done the modeling. We have the plans in place. If we were to follow the CDC guidelines for social distancing, it would take our venue from 1,400 seats that we have sellable and reduce it down to just under 500 seats. So when we look at what it costs to do a performance at the theater, then there's an economic equation that comes into play where we want to do the live performance, but how do you have 65-person symphony orchestra on the stage and pay those 65 performers union scale to perform, pay the cast and the crew for an evening that that may cost $200,000 in hard costs to present the performance. With 400 people, that equates to a $500 per person ticket in round numbers. So how many people in our community have the capacity right now to come and pay $500 for a performing arts ticket? And then from our perspective, we go, how many times can you do that? The whole over the last year, we were trending to 20 performances a month that we would put on, and we just don't believe that there's the capability in the community right now for us to present that many performances at that high of a price point.
Wow, that's depressing. That you really
it's
can't
the reality, and I think that's why as we look at what's the next 18 to 24 months look like, we would all like to get to a point where there's some normalcy in saying that we could have full houses again in the next 3 months and get back to having concerts. But we have to plan for the absolute worst case scenario in the preservation of the theater, which means let's focus on what we know we can do. And then if all of a sudden things turn out really well and we can get people back into the theater relatively quickly, we can ramp up our local productions and ramp up some of the mainland traveling shows to start bringing people in. But rather than plan any additional in-person events right now, recognizing that we may not be able to do it, it's much, it's a much better business decision for us to say, let's focus on the live streaming, let's help improve the professionalism and the quality, and let's get our musicians and our cast and crew paid, because that's the most important thing. These people need to be paid. They're the first ones that always get asked to perform for free, and people need to recognize that this is what they do for a living. They pay them for their talents. That's what it's about.
So what if the city opened up some parks and beaches? I know we don't have a stage like yours, but what if the city changed some rules to allow you folks to have more performance, and including like the Waikiki show? Would that help at all, or would it be too complicated?
Well, the Hawaii Theater is fortunate in that we have a very robust ticketing system that we can deploy and to help manage crowds and bring in people. Dave and I have talked about it, working with the Symphony at the Shell. In previous years, we've worked with the Friends of the Waikiki Aquarium with their outdoor concerts. Again, you come down to a question of capacity versus cost. And, as you're running the numbers, how do you create concerts and performances at the level that you would like, and still have it be financially viable for whatever promoter is taking on the risk of presenting the concert. The music business is notoriously very slim margins. There's not a ton of money that the majority of people make in this. Most musicians and performers are in it for the love and the talent. They're not going to be the ones flying in on a Learjet. Yeah,
we got a lot of questions on this chat as well as on our social media, but I do want to go to Matty. Because Matty, you got a tough situation. You got a club and you're a promoter. Gosh, how are things going, and how do you plan to reopen the nightclub?
It's been pretty challenging. Right now, we're just kind of stuck. We don't know when we might have the option to open back up. So yeah, we wear two hats. We're venue owners, and also we own a promotional company that does shows within that company, but also all other venues across all the Hawaiian Islands. So having a plan, we don't have an exact plan right now, mainly just because we haven't found the right guidance on the federal level or on the state level to allow us or to give us even knowledge of when we might be able to reopen. Things have seemingly been changing, guidelines and so forth. So every time we come up with a plan, things do change. So we just have taken the mindset of step back, see what's going on, and then formulate a really good plan to move forward once we have firm ideas.
Well, what I suggest to all of you folks, and I understand, Erica, didn't someone have a plan that you had sent me? I didn't get to read it all.
Yes, it was Jan Brenner of Star Theme Parties, who she didn't say anything about the standard operating procedure that she had sent over being proprietary, but she is very ardently passionate about getting performers back to work. And so she has a list really of steps to take. So load-in needs to be gloved and masked, no interaction with guests or staff, aside from distanced kinds of interactions, no tip jars on stage because of the whole cash transaction thing. Masks can be off during the singer's performance. There's a step-by-step sort of, she called it an SOP, standard operating procedure. And we can, as far as I'll get her permission to make sure, but I believe we can share that. And it can be a starting point for many of you, if not all of you.
Actually, on that topic, I would encourage everybody that's either a venue owner or even musicians, just for informational sake, if they could sign up for the National Independent Venue Association. They are exactly that. It's a nationwide organization that's banded together to help come up with a plan and actually help lobby for federal funds dedicated specifically to our industry. Because that's one of the things, like we're pretty much the first industry to shut down and seemingly the last to open back up. And
Matty, the name of that organization, please? I'll type it into the notes here on Facebook.
It's the National Independent Venue Association. I think there's roughly 1,200 members right now, and they send out weekly updates what their lobbying efforts are yielding. They give us assets that we can give to our local, all of our local government. So it's very informative. It gives us guidelines for reopening. Sorry? Yeah, it outlines guidelines for reopening, and it offers a lot of helpful information about how to reopen safely. And yeah, I would definitely encourage that.
And I would encourage all of you through Amy's organization that she's the head of, that you really need to band together. When we were helping the salons, and I didn't know that salons, anyone to get a license to cut hair or do beards and things like that, or even eyebrows, that they have to have very strict testing and requirements for their licenses to not spread disease, to not spread illnesses of any kind. And they had to know everything about sanitation, but they also were supposed to be one of the last to open. And so what I suggested to them is really getting a strong organization together, helping to come up with your own rules, which they did. And they gave the rules to the mayors of the different islands, as well as to the governor, and also made sure that they had open communication with the mayors and the governors. Maui did open first, but there were some rules in there that were made by people who don't understand the salon industry. And so they had some rules that really made it almost impossible to open. They had a certain type of thermometer that you had to buy that no one could get for 2 or 3 months. So it's really important. I think, Erica, what you can do is we'll use that document that was sent to us as a sample of where to work from. And if we can add it to the chat here, as well as to Facebook, if you can, I don't know how you attach it to Facebook, but
Danny,
we can use that as a starting document. Send it to Danny and she'll figure it out.
Awesome.
But I want to go to Trish Nalay, our newest artist. I'm so sorry. You're about to just get out there and promote your awesome album. So how are you doing that now?
It's for me, it was kind of heartbreaking because this single was highly anticipated from just my own fan base alone, because I've been playing in the scene for about 10 or 15 years. And I have never released a song under my own voice. I write for other people, but I haven't released a song with my own voice. So it was highly anticipated. I had a huge show that I was putting on out on the east side, and I had quite a bit of upcoming bands open for me, as well as some as our well-known groups like Kapu System. They're also my good friends that we were getting together to have a full night of fun, and I believe part of it had affected my release hugely, because I depend on just one-on-one contact with my peoples to get my music out there. Everything is word of mouth for me, so I really depended on that. Although I didn't have my release party, I did do okay. I actually, in my first 2 weeks of the release, I actually hit the reggae charts. I was on the top 100, maybe 43 or something like that. So I was very shocked because I wasn't expecting to get on the reggae charts at all. So, I had some good come out of it. The good thing is my song is still out there for everyone to hear. I went out on it on my own, and I just blasted on Facebook, Instagram, social media, just posting it and paying sponsored ads. And you know what, people are hearing it. I'll get random emails saying, hey, this song was actually really good. I hope to see more music from you. And I was kind of down for a little bit, but because I'm not working right now, I'm using that time to work on a full album. I have so much music. So I was like, you know what? I have a little money saved on the side. Why don't I just go and find someone who will help record my stuff? And luckily, I was able to do that. So I'll have some music coming out soon, but maybe by the end of this year or next year, because I just feel like everything right now is just out of whack. And even with my own personal life, everything kind of fell out of order with my children. I have 3 kids. They're out of school. We had to do the whole learning thing. My mind's going crazy. I'm like, I thought I finished school already, you know? But we're getting through it, you know. I'm actually one of the fortunate musicians where, you know, I have a other half who has a really good job. So I'm not too down and out, but you know, it still hurt us pretty bad. Like we definitely have to start budgeting now. So it's just a matter of time when we're ready to go back to work whenever we get the word.
What is the name of your single? We're going to add that to our Facebook site so that people can go and
The name of
support
my
you.
single is called Perfect Kind of Sin, and I released it on March 27th. Yeah, so it's been out on
Oh,
all
wow.
digital outlets. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you
Sis, how
so
about
much
you
for
go ahead and send that to me as well?
I sure will. I sure will.
Awesome. Yes, please help her, Punui. You can do it.
I appreciate it. You know, it's been crazy because, like, you know, I've been doing this whole thing on my own, like, just going out there, meeting people, social networking, you know. It's a challenge for a person for me. I'm actually very, very shy. So this year I was just like, you know what? Trish, buckle down. If you want this to happen, you got to go out there and get it. So for me, it was just like, darn, I was just right there. So I'm really trying to be patient with it, no rush at all, and try to be positive in this negative time, you know.
That's why
Especially,
we need music, because a lot of
yeah,
us are out of whack in so many ways, and we're going to fight together.
Exactly.
yes, even us, we need it too. I know, like every day, I'm like at least yelling at somebody once a day. You know, I'm like, and like, you know, even my own fans, they're like, Trish, how come you haven't been on social media much? And I told them, I was like, well, I'm going through my own thing too, and I was like, I don't want to show you guys that part of me that's hurting, but I was like, I'm hurting, but I was like, I don't want to bring that energy towards everyone. Everyone needs a uplifting. You know, a lot of people look at us musicians to bring that forward. And for me, I can't always do that. So I kind of been sitting silent, listening to what's going on, but I'm still here. I tell you, I'm still here. I'm still busy. It's just that I'm kind of like, I don't want to play sad music right now, you know? That's all that's coming out of me. So when I feel good, that's when I'll be like, hey guys, how you doing? But right now it's just kind of been like silence. I've been kind of sitting in silence, working behind the scenes. So I have some good things I'm hoping to come up soon, but it's just right now, just chilling.
Well, we look forward to that, and we're gonna root for all of you. Actually, we do have so many questions. I just want to make sure all of you guys got to say something. But we have a lot of questions about plexiglass from different performers that are contacting us and watching on Facebook. One question, I guess Eric Izumi, because this is what you folks do. What do you think about full live band playing with a plexiglass in front of them? And another question that kind of goes with that: would in-ear monitors help with the sound reflection issue from plexiglass for those live bands? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes, in-ear monitors, absolutely. Bands are transitioning to using in-ear monitors more. Quality of sound for your audience is just 10 times better. So that's kind of a no-brainer. Plexiglass situation, I've read people's comments and thoughts on it on Facebook within the last couple of weeks. My own opinion, dealing with acoustics is our hardest job, period. Whether it's indoor, whether it's dealing with, metal stages, or even in bars. In an indoor environment, it's gonna pose a lot of challenges. If the bands are on in-ear monitors, then it will help tremendously. And I think that could be very easily done. In an outdoor setting, I don't see it as being necessary, only because we have the space. If you're gonna throw a concert outdoors, you pretty much will have the real estate to be able to have that distance between the audience and your stage, your musicians. The only thing I would see as kind of being a conflict without using plexiglass is some of the bigger concerts, or like Matty can say for Republik, there's security, or there's media people taking pictures right off of the stage. But it's definitely a possibility. Plexiglass is kind of expensive, so that's something we would really have to look into and see if we can justify the cost somehow.
Anybody have any other thoughts of that? Matty, have you guys talked about this for your concerts?
We haven't really talked about plexiglass much. Our venue, for the most part, deals with international or national traveling acts. We definitely have a lot of local acts that perform on the same bills with those artists, and sometimes we do host events that are specifically for local artists. I do know that in some of the guidelines that I've been reading, people have been recommending that. I know, like Eric spoke about, a lot of times there's media in what's called the pit area. That means the area from the stage to the barricade. And what they've been recommending is you push the barricade further out, because we're going to have more space to work with. And then also relocate all media to a different area within the property that allows for the distance that's required for social distancing. So that's one of the things that I've heard as a recommendation. As to acoustics and things of that nature, plexiglass definitely would probably make things more challenging, but I think that it also provides one of the more logical options for some of the local acts that are performing in restaurants or bars, or hotel lobbies and things like that. So I think there's practical applications for it. I'm not an audio engineer. I would always defer to our technical director for things like that. But it does seem like it could be a potentially useful solution to help get us headed in the right direction. Because once we get artists back on stage, it allows a plethora of other people to start earning income again, and all the way down from bartenders to cleaning staff. So, they kind of hold the keys. We got to get those people back on stage.
I could imagine putting a plexiglass right in front of a drum set would not be the ultimate thing, the best thing to do.
Kim, could I ask?
Ironically, that's a pretty common thing. That's called
common.
Yes.
Yeah.
Could I ask?
It actually
Eric
helps
something real quick, Kim?
Yeah, go ahead. You guys are welcome to take over.
Eric, I wanted to ask you with regard to the plexiglass. The side guys could all be masked, and you don't necessarily in an hour performance have to have the background vocals. They could just be masked, the side guys, and the plexiglass would just sit right in front of the lead singer. Not like the whole stage is plexiglass. Could something like that work, do you think?
Yeah, I guess it would basically come down to what type of style of music you would perform. I know a lot of vocalists like to utilize, if they have a 30-foot stage, they like to utilize that 30 feet of stage.
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually in the middle of replying to somebody about using a pop screen for your microphone, like how the horn players do.
Yeah.
That really wouldn't be logical, because the spray that they're saying that would carry that contamination would be bigger than whatever that pop screen would be. If for Hawaiian music or anybody that, or even a smaller stage, if the main vocalist is actually staying pretty much within a 5-foot radius of wherever their position is, I think that's very doable and not having to cover the whole band. If the background singers, and this is something that I'm curious on, is how the quality would be, because technically it's the same as using a windscreen, is if you're using a mask to sing, you're still you're containing your spray, as they say, whenever you talk or scream or project into the mic, it's being contained. So I don't see why this isn't an option and that we can't look down, see where this would lead us. And if it may be a better option to plexiglass, definitely a lot cheaper.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I mean, I think the entertainers have to make some sort of concession. You can't be all over the stage during this present time, but maybe 5 months from now, you can go back to that,
Definitely.
just to be
Definitely.
safe.
I mean, it's just some of the restrictions, like any other industry that opened up. For the entertainment industry, we're going to have these new rules that we need, guidelines that we need to follow, and we just do it. At least we can get out there. If people are willing to do that, then great. At least that's an option.
Yeah. Great.
So, excuse me, I have a
that.
question. Don't usually artists come in with their own like equipment, like the microphones and stuff like that? Because I know like karaoke is now being used, and that's a mic that gets transferred to different people, and
I mean, I usually travel with my mic just because I don't like people's galas all over my microphone. but like Audio Resource and things, they do clean the mics with alcohol swabs. I mean, it is cleanly,
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Mahalo.
We try.
That's the thing. Like most of us musicians, we bring in our own equipment, and then like I know you brought it up earlier, but we could use a pop filter, which I guess wouldn't contain everything, but it's just as well as using a mask. I mean, most of us as musicians, like Jan Brenner brought up an SOP. I think most musicians are used to having guidelines that they have to follow whatever venue they're playing at. But my thing is like, usually we're on a stage and the nearest audience is 20 feet at the closest usually. I mean, that's way more than the guidelines for anything else. And being in a restaurant, I've heard the argument of recirculated air. Well, people are eating there without a mask on, so you're still having recirculated air with people. So the musician is not going to change the fact that you're in recirculated air. And if it's just about the spray, then we have a farther distance. And if we use like a pop filter in front of us, I think that's more than enough to, I mean, a mask will muffle the sound. So, I mean, if we had to do that, I think it can be done, but it's not the greatest option. But a pop filter, they're relatively cheap, and they would do the job, I think.
Ben, do you have a pop filter right there? Is that in your hand, Ben? You want to show it real quick?
So it just hooks onto my right in front of the mic. So when I'm singing, it's blocking. This is for my studio one, but there are cheaper ones that are a little bigger and they cover more space. So I think that would be sufficient. That's just my opinion.
I would like to touch on something that Amy said earlier about how our music is the soundtrack of.
Ooh, we lost you. Oh, Pu'unui, we lost you.
You're mute.
Mute.
Yeah, gotcha. Sorry about that. So Amy said earlier, very, very perfectly, that the music of Hawaii is really the soundtrack of who we are and our culture. And I think about this, and I think about how music is ingrained into our culture, and it helps us to preserve that culture and forward it on to the next generation. And I think about how Mayor Monarch was canceled, and there are numerous amounts of hula competitions or exhibitions that have been postponed. And I think about it from not just a musician standpoint, because the musicians in a, performing for halal can be set up, plexiglass, all of that. But I think about Oli and chanting and all these things that our halals do on stage, and how are we going to take the next steps to kind of get back into preserving and sharing our culture amongst each other? And that's something that I really feel like we could be focusing on a little bit more as well. A little bit further down the line, obviously, because, you know, anything would work if we can start off with solos or duos and getting them performing, you know. But on the ultimate standpoint, I think about us as a people here in Hawaii and being able to forward our people and get us back to something that's a little bit more normal. And, you know, my niece hasn't gone to Halau since February, I think, and I really fear for her to lose some of that mana'o and knowledge moving forward.
Well, thank you folks very much. This hour went by really, really fast, and I want to thank you so much for joining us. So the goal was just to get all of you folks together. We have many more people that wanted to come but couldn't make this time frame, and they wanted to continue the discussion. Amy, if you don't mind that we work with you, or we're going to help put all these different types of suggested rules together and send it out to everyone to get everybody's feedback. And then what we can do is, when we feel that you folks have a consensus, work with all of you to work with the governors and the mayors of the different islands, so that we can at least get this discussion going, so we don't have to wait for the CDC to tell us how we should do stuff on our own island, right? I think we all want to be safe, right?
And Kim, I think it would be really important to have somebody like Eric, you know, a lot of our engineers that really know how sound travels and how it, you know, how the artists, you know, they know everything about us. You know, I think it would be important to have some of, you know, the sound kind of men, or, you know, on one of those panels, engineers, things like that, that really know how it travels, you know, or would make an education.
We'll make sure that if you folks can give us suggestions of that. And again, we will be, you know, part of this email chain and discussion. We'll probably have some other discussions offline to talk about these different suggestions and recommendations, and hopefully we can get this going in the next week and a half, because we understand you've been waiting a long time. So we really want to get all of you folks going. Does anyone have any last words before we sign off?
I was thinking that, isn't there a way to put the Hawaii Theater in a different bracket of being a historic theater? Isn't it a way to put her to where there can be more of a stimulus package for her?
I'd have to look into that.
I'm just curious.
They're suggesting that there's another federal stimulus that's going to come out. I'd have to look at, I heard that there was something about museums, and I don't know, maybe it can qualify as a museum.
Right.
We can certainly look into that, because we certainly know that that's a very special place and a part of our history.
But they had announced recently that even the Palace was having trouble, and the Honolulu Arts Museum was struggling as well. But I just wanted to say, I wanted to encourage all the artists out there. Like, for me, I put my time into education, you know, studying my music, studying my craft. I learned how to engineer so that I could record my own music. And luckily, right before COVID, I was able to set up my own home studio. But, you know, it was a challenge. But, you know, I had 3 months with nothing better to do. So I put my time into educating myself. So I'd encourage all you musicians, you know, put the time in, study your craft. And if you can't make money from live venues, find other ways to create revenue right now. And then, you know, when we go back to live events, then at least you'll have another source of revenue as well. So, you know, God bless all of you guys, and good luck.
You know, with Dave, Kim, you know, with Dave, I was thinking what might be kind of cool is, I love all of the social media that they're doing with the Symphony, just in these random areas, you know, but with the issue of, you know, the projection of droplets and all that, it might be kind of cool on a global level to raise awareness to you of putting like each symphony player in a car, you know how they're doing the outdoor concerts with everybody in their car, and actually have them play in the car. You know what I'm saying? Just something kind of weird like that, because they're in there confined in their own little air conditioned space. Just a thought.
Let's do it, Amy. Let's do it.
Yes, one of our Facebook commenters said, "Hey, we brought the drive-in movies back, so we should have drive-in symphony and drive-in concerts."
Drive-in symphony, that would be awesome.
I would go.
And we'll have the city fund it. There you go.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
I would love to see that at Waimanalo Beach Park. Just
there you go.
Right.
I would support it. I would advocate for it.
I want to thank all of you so much for sharing your story. There's a lot of musicians that were watching online today. They just wanted to know that they're going through the same thing. I lost my mute. Oh, I got muted. Oh, let me start again. Well, I just want to thank everyone so much for joining us today. There were a lot of musicians that are online on our Facebook side that were listening and just watching today. And just by you sharing your story has helped them a lot to feel that they're not alone. Now we can tell everybody that there is a group forming, that you have a family that's going to fight for you, that's going to get you back to work so that you can safely feed your families again. And we're going to put some rules together that hopefully is accepted by the medical experts, as well as the governor, lieutenant governor, as well as all the mayors of all the different islands. We know that if we work together and be smart and work and find a way to safely do this, that we can get the economy back together again without having to ever shut down again. So until our next meeting, we'll continue to work on this offline. I'm Councilmember Kymberly Marcos Pine, and want to thank everybody for listening to our great people in the entertainment business. And please go to all of their Facebook websites, go to the tip jar, everybody today, please make a donation to the Symphony, also to the theater, okay, and to all, and Trisha Nale, help this woman get her first single out so she can do her first album. Okay, love all of you guys. Until the next time, bye.